Good afternoon, meteorologist Mike Linden coming at you live from the MyRadar studio here in Orlando, Florida. It is Sunday, August 29th, just short of 11:30 Eastern Time. And of course, we continue on with team coverage of Hurricane Ida, set to impact the southern coastline of Louisiana as a Category 4 major hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 150 miles per hour. Before we get to our team coverage featuring meteorologists Erica Lopez, Matt Cappucci, and MyRadar Storm Chaser Aaron Jayjack, let's take a look at what Ida is doing right now in the app. As I mentioned, from the National Hurricane Center, 150 miles per hour. Bear in mind, a Cat 5, we're talking stronger than 156. So we're almost there here, folks. If this were to make landfall even right now as a Category 4, it could potentially go down as the strongest hurricane to make landfall in Louisiana's recorded history. In terms of the storm surge, that is definitely going to be something to watch for. 12 to near 16 feet of storm surge that the National Hurricane Center is calling extremely life-threatening in terms of that storm surge that's right along that southern coastline there. On top of that, the wind damage, as we'll soon talk about, these extreme winds, let alone the fact that there could be the presence of a tornado. We are talking about some incredibly powerful wind speeds from this particular storm. And even if you are not right next to the eye, you could still be looking at some relatively strong gusty winds. So you really need to heed all watches and warnings and listen to all emergency officials that live in your area. Before we get again to our team coverage, let's get to a first check at what things are looking like right now in the Big Easy. This is from MyRadar Storm Chaser Aaron Jayjack. He is on the ground in Houma, Louisiana. We've got his dash cam up there. Aaron has been on the ground since yesterday. It's been a pretty wild day for him in Louisiana, but you can see that the streets are pretty quiet and clear there. This is west of New Orleans in Houma there. And hey, good timing. Aaron is hitting the road here. So we will, of course, be checking back in with Aaron throughout the course of the afternoon today. And, of course, Aaron's on the ground here, so it's this is an incredibly rare and significant event here, and it's quite possible Aaron's going to be on the ground here for an eye wall approaching in the middle of the day. Bear in mind, it's not even noon East Coast time, and of course Louisiana is Central time, so it is still in the morning for folks that live in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Houma there. Wild stuff here on this Sunday. All right, so that's going to do it for Aaron's dash cam. We will revisit Aaron. Of course, Aaron's going to be very busy, of course, across all of our social media platforms, as I'm sure you've seen throughout the morning. But what I want to do now is bring in the newest member of the MyRadar weather team. This is meteorologist Erica Lopez, and Erica is going to give us a check on the app as it stands right now. Of course, this is Erica's first weekend with us here, and you want to talk about what a weekend to start, of course, right? A Category 4 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico set to impact the coastline of Louisiana.
Yeah, and a high-end one at that. So definitely a crazy weekend to start, but I'm excited to talk about what we can expect from Hurricane Ida.
Yeah, so Erica, what are we looking at right now in terms of the power outages? About an hour or so ago when we were talking, we started to kind of see them trickle in a little bit, but it seems like they're really starting to kind of come in waves now that those tropical force winds begin to arrive.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to take a look at some of the areas we were looking at earlier. So earlier when I was looking at Plaquemines Parish outages, it was about 2,500 customers without power. That number has jumped to 4,500 customers without power. And of course, this will continue to go up as we go throughout the day. And in New Orleans, Jefferson Parish, outages are about 5,000 on the higher end, almost close to 6,000 customers affected. And earlier, this number was also just a little bit under 4,000 customers without power. So definitely the winds are starting to come into this area, especially right there on the southern side of Louisiana. And we're going to take a look at Lafourche Parish outages. And right now, about 6,000 customers without power as these winds are starting to come in and as we get these stronger rain bands as well. So taking a look at some other areas that could possibly see some power outages, like I mentioned, Lafourche is still at 6,000 customers. So of course, these numbers will be going up throughout the rest of today.
Now, Erica, of course, 16 years ago today was a pretty significant day in meteorological history. And, of course, for those that live in Louisiana, of course, I'm talking about Hurricane Katrina, which made landfall I mean, it's wild to even talk about 16 years ago today. I mean, making landfall as a Cat 3, Ida right now a Cat 4.
Yeah, definitely 16 years ago at 125 miles per hour. That's what Katrina came into this part of the country just 16 years ago, exactly to the day. 125 mile per hour winds, like I mentioned, which makes it a Category 3. And about 900,000 customers were without power for days out there. So definitely a destructive storm that affected Louisiana just about 16 years ago.
Now, Erica, of course, as we just talked about before, a pretty rare event. You know, of course, it's not every day that we're talking about a Category 4 hurricane, right? But it's not every day that we're talking about an extreme wind warning, which has been issued, of course, for that southern coastline of Louisiana and a large swath of it as well. Big shout out to Phil Klotzbach on Twitter. He's a friend of the app. He's been on our channel before. He's just tweeted out that Ida is forecast to intensify to 155 mile per hour max winds before landfall. Only 4 continental U.S. landfalling hurricanes on record have had winds that strong at landfall. Labor Day 1935, Camille 1969, Andrew 1992, and Michael 2019. All of those were Cat 5, 156 plus. So this likely going to be one of those storms that I think right up to landfall, Erica, where the folks at the NHC are going to be watching this so closely to make a determination on this.
Definitely but I think one that you'll never forget, for sure.
Yeah, I would think people, though, that live along the coastline here, regardless of it being Cat 4, Cat 5, even Cat 3, you should treat it all the same, and you should be taking things seriously.
Oh, yes, for sure. Exactly with what you were mentioning earlier, that extreme wind warning, those are only issued for these kinds of events. And they were saying with this warning, 115 to 150 mile per hour winds possible. So definitely take extreme precaution out in Louisiana.
So, Erica, before we move on here, I've got some questions in the chat. We've got a lot of people saying hello to you. We've got Ernest here from Facebook saying, bless Erica for pronouncing our parishes correctly. Erica, I guess brushing up on her French a little bit here, but a lot of positive feedback in the app. We love to see it here. And if any of you guys have any questions for Erica, now is going to be the time to drop those questions in. We might be able to revisit it a little bit later as we go on here. But Erica, I think that'll probably do it, at least for right now. We'll probably check back in with you before we close things out here for this live stream. But of course, more to come. Erica, thank you so much for the latest look. All right, so let's keep things rolling along here. We've got meteorologist Matt Cappucci standing by. And if you've been following us on social media, you know that Matt Cappucci is prolific is one word to describe him in terms of the effort that he's putting in on social media today. He has been all over the place, diving deep into the technical analysis. And we once again welcome in meteorologist Matt Cappucci. How you doing so far, Matt?
So far, so good, but it's unfortunate to see the scenario unfolding right now in coastal Louisiana. We see the eye wall just offshore. It's about 14, 15 miles wide at this point. And whenever we see an eye wall kind of that small across, we know it's really holding its winds quite tight. It's kind of like a skater, where if the skater is spinning really fast, odds are their arms are pulled in. If they relax, they spread their arms out, the winds come down. We haven't seen that yet this time. We see the eye wall is really keeping things nice and tight. And unfortunately, that means it's bottling up the strongest winds and really concentrating them, and gusts upwards of 140 miles per hour likely.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty significant tweet not too long ago from the National Weather Service office, Matt, in New Orleans here. We're going to see if we can pull it up, but I'll just read it out. As meteorologists at the National Weather Service Slidell office, we can't bear to see this on satellite. We have hard times ahead, but we will all persevere. Take all messages we, public officials, and broadcast media are saying, all caps, seriously. Stay tuned for more frequent updates. I mean, can you speak to the language that the National Weather Service is using here, Matt? This isn't just your ordinary hurricane, right?
Yeah, we deal with hurricanes that are Category 1, Category 2, and the National Weather Service usually sticks to typical protocol. They have language that is pre-templated, language that they use, and it's usually pretty much the same thing every single time. But when we start seeing things like this, it goes beyond templated, pre-canned, pre-manufactured language. They're really tapping into that human element of things because ultimately, yes, they're forecasters, but they're people too, and this is their homes. We have 122 different National Weather Service offices across the country, and they're trained with they have trained professionals there, and obviously meteorologists know what they're forecasting. nobody wants to forecast that their home gets a significant hit or is on the verge in some places in southern areas of being destroyed. And it's tragic to see. And it really attests to the dedication of these brave men and women who know that their families will likely be impacted. They're going to work, they're doing their job, and then they have to go home and deal with the repercussions of the hurricane. It's amazing to see how much they put into it. And yes, they're forecasters, but they're also human. And I think that showing that human side drives home the message of how severe and serious this hurricane is.
So, of course, the messaging is not ordinary messaging. And, of course, that extreme wind warning is not ordinary whatsoever in terms of the normal alerting. We spoke about this before, but can you talk about how serious it is when you see that EWW being issued? This isn't something that the National Weather Service is issuing every day. This is saved for those special occasions. Can you talk about what an EWW is?
Yeah, so the extreme wind warning, or the eyewall wind warning, has only been issued, I think, 7 or 8 times so far for different storms. It was actually born out of necessity. So originally, it was coined as kind of a souped-up tornado warning back during Hurricane Charlie, a Category 3 on August 13, 2004, that made landfall, I think, near Tampa. And the concern at the time, the local weather service said, hey, we have hurricane warnings in effect, but that just doesn't really accommodate these high-end scenarios with Category 3 plus eye walls moving inland, because you get these extreme gusts of 115 plus miles per hour, and that causes swaths of tornado-like wind damage. So they ultimately issued tornado warnings for areas downstream of that eye wall. They did the same thing back during Hurricane Katrina in 2005 for heavily evacuated areas near Plaquemines, Terrebonne parishes in Louisiana. They got, I think, 11 different warnings out of that. But there was some social science after that said residents were a little bit confused when the tornado warnings were issued because they were told to seek shelter, but they were used to seeking shelter below ground during tornado events, and yet they were facing flooding this time. And so that's why the National Weather Service kind of took that feedback, created a new type of warning in the late 2000s, early 2010s, called the extreme wind warning. And it sat kind of unused with dust on it for years until Hurricane Matthew back in 2015 or 2016. And then thereafter, we saw it for Harvey, Irma, Maria, Michael, Laura last year, and it's issued when you have that eye wall of 115 plus mile per hour winds moving ashore, and it's really that kind of last resort, batten down the hatches and ride this one out sort of thing. Hopefully folks evacuate, but if they haven't, they can plan for tornado-like wind speeds lasting upwards of an hour.
That's just totally wild to even think about. We were just looking at, Matt, some video there from Aaron on the ground. The streets are seemingly empty where he is in Houma, Louisiana, which is great to see. But we have some questions here coming in from users, Matt, before we say goodbye. I know you've been incredibly busy this morning. If you guys have any questions for meteorologist Matt Cappucci, for any of us here on the team, pop them in the chat and I will get to them. Matt, somebody commented saying this will be a storm for the ages. Now, I've seen you commenting on social media, kind of comparing the two between Katrina and between Ida, the two storms that will undoubtedly be compared throughout the rest of history, being that they happened on the same day, or at least are likely to make landfall on the same day. But these are two very different storms. The only kind of similarities are the geographic area in which they're making landfall in, right?
Very much so. This storm has rapidly intensified quite a bit. So yesterday was a Category 1, Category 2. Now it's on the border of Category 5 status. Katrina, on the other hand, a couple days before, in fact, 20 hours before, was a Category 5. So it had that strength going into it and then started to weaken. This thing's doing the opposite. Now you might think, okay, it's coming ashore stronger. From a wind perspective, yes, they will likely see more wind in extreme southern Louisiana. But the big issue with Katrina wasn't really the wind, it was the surge. Katrina produced a record storm surge in Biloxi, Mississippi of 27 feet. They had severe damage in downtown New Orleans where levees were breached and overtopped. But the big issue with Katrina was A, the fact that it had been strong beforehand, so stirred up the seas even more. But B, its size. It was simply mammoth. It was enormous. And that pushed ashore more water than you would typically see from a Category 3 hurricane. It's the same as how Hurricane Sandy, for example, which was barely a Category 1 when it made landfall, caused more of a surge than many Category 2, 3, even 4 hurricanes out there, simply because Sandy was huge. So it's not only about the wind speed, it's the fetch. It's how long those winds have been out there and how much distance they have to travel over time, and that's why storm size really matters here. This time around, Ida, yes, is packing quite a punch. It's a little bit tighter, a little bit more local, which is good news in that its footprint in terms of wind will be lesser. But it's also good news from the surge standpoint because it just doesn't have enough room to gallop, so to speak, and whip up a bigger surge. So I think 10 to 15 feet near the coastline, definitely probable. We'll have a surge of about 4 to 8 feet on Lake Pontchartrain, but we're not seeing something in the same league as Katrina. And since 2005, they've implemented about $16 billion worth of protection now to really revamp the infrastructure surrounding those levees, and this will be the ultimate test.
You know, I was going to say the same thing. Lessons learned 16 years ago, and this will be a big test moving forward. A busy day ahead for the folks that live in Louisiana, and a busy day for us here as well. Meteorologist Matt Cappucci, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it, and we'll be back to visit with you here shortly. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, so let's roll on with our team coverage here of Hurricane Ida. Quite a storm. Again, thanks to Matt Cappucci. You can follow him on social media. He has been all over the place, all across MyRadar social media early this morning. All right, so let's take a look at the infrared imagery that I have available for you guys here. And again, if you have any questions for me, for anybody on the team, get them into the chat. We will try to answer them as we go on here. We will also be revisiting here things with meteorologist Erica Lopez in just a moment. But I want you to see the tropical infrared imagery here looking at Ida. There is the eye, and there's the land, folks. Not to say that it is a landfall here, but boy, I mean, are we in the final countdown here? Shout out to Europe. You can see that eye wall just about to make land there. But of course, we need the whole eye there on land. We've got actually Aaron Jayjack here live in Houma, Louisiana. You would have absolutely no idea that a meteorological monster is sitting right off the coastline just by looking at this shot here. But things are about to get busy here in Louisiana. You can see the trees blowing there. Aaron's got a green light, and we have got a green light to go back to the graphics table. All right, so let's take a look here at the active watches and warnings. You can see that pink color there. That is a hurricane warning, and that is in place for almost the entire southern and southeastern coastline of Louisiana. And look at how far inland that tropical storm warning goes north, almost all the way into central Mississippi, almost all the way to the northern border of Louisiana, and extending as far east as Mobile, Alabama, and Pensacola, Florida. So even though this is affecting Louisiana, the entire Gulf Coast going to be impacted by Ida here as it works its way northward, just looking like a little buzzsaw there in the Gulf of Mexico. And look at the eye, still visible here on the water vapor imagery. Pretty wild stuff here. Of course, the sea surface temperatures, Ida wants to stay over water, folks. This does not want to be over land. This wants to be nice and cozy over the nice and warm Gulf of Mexico with water temperatures in the mid to high 80s. Look how warm that water is near Texas. Woo. That is why one of the reasons as to why this storm is really trying to pull toward the west. It does not want to go east. It's going to get pushed that way, but it wants to go as far west as it can here before it does eventually get turned to the east. But look at these storm surge warnings. We were just talking before with meteorologist Erica Lopez, talking about the storm surge potential here along the coastline. Those are some big numbers, folks, 12 to 16 feet, stretching from New Iberia all the way eastward into parts of Alabama and even into just barely into Florida there. In fact, if we look at this graphic here, we can take a look really on a super granular level, take a look at the storm surge and what is expected here. Anywhere where you're seeing red is above above the double digits. In fact, these white colors here, that's above the charts. This is going above the color table that I have available to me here. So just right here, Grand Isle, folks, up toward New Orleans, we're talking, as you saw before, potentially upwards of 12 to 16 feet of storm surge inundation. Not to mention, this is where Aaron is, right here in Houma, Louisiana. So 6 to near 15 feet of potential storm surge, not to mention the incredibly strong winds that are well on their way, as well as the potential 20 or so inches of rain over the next 3 days, most of which, though, will be arriving here over the next 16 to 24. So let's take a look at the path here. Again, right now, a Category 4 hurricane, you need 156 and above, or I guess above 156, I should say, to be a Category 5 hurricane. And boy, we are so darn close to that right now at a $150. This could be like Michael, where initially it was thought to be a Category 4, and then almost a year later, it was eventually deemed a Category 5. But nonetheless, you shouldn't be paying that close attention to this now. For the people that live along the coastline, in terms of prep, you're probably done with that. It's not really safe to be outside, to be prepping, doing anything last minute now. But now you're at the time where you need to make sure, while you still do have power, to make sure that your mobile phone is charged, make sure that your tablet is charged. Any way that you can receive alerts from the National Weather Service and from local emergency management authorities, you need to have a way of receiving those alerts. Of course, hopefully cellular service is going to stay up for as long as it possibly can, but that's why a mobile power bank is a fantastic thing to have, a mobile power bank. In fact, I have one. I brought it with me. Erica's got it in the other room. We'll show it off here in just a moment. But looking at the path as a whole, someone in the chat not long ago was asking, is this thing coming up to New Jersey? Which, in short, yes, by the latter portion of the work week, likely to be up near you, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, as a pretty nasty storm there late in the week with wind speeds of 35 miles per hour. Just, a lot of rain and gusty winds coming with that. Maybe some localized flooding, but it's really the nasty stuff near the coast that we are watching, as this thing is just attached to the Gulf of Mexico, just feeding in the nasty wet weather. Let's take a look at the HRRR here. This is a really high-resolution model that I can show you, and this actually updates every single hour, so I can't push it out that far. But what I want to show you here is look at that. I mean, potential landfall here. I mean, the model, again, is updating so fast on me here when I get set for these shows. I mean, that would be a landfall there at 4:30, but possibly even a little earlier. It gets a little dicey when you start to look at the islands there, right? Like right to the south of Homa. Possibility that the NHC could call that a landfall, but we will watch closely as things go on. Even once this thing is made landfall, folks, you're still looking at a lot of the flow coming in off of the Gulf of Mexico. Those outflow bands could be pretty nasty for you, producing some strong gusty winds, maybe even a few tornadoes. Of course, the worst place to be in a hurricane is that right front quadrant where you find the strongest winds. We keep advancing this thing, and you can see that. Just look at this. Let me grab my pointer tool here. Look at all that moisture on this outer band, just tapped in like a fire hose, right? It's like firefighters when they connect to a fire hydrant. Well, the fire hydrant is the Gulf of Mexico here, and it is just pushing all that water inland. So for the folks that live in Mississippi, Alabama, inland flooding likely to be concerning heading into these next couple of days, but it is the southeastern coast of Louisiana that is really going to deal with the real brunt of the strong winds and that storm surge. But those tropical storm force winds, mind you, those are likely to stick around as far inland as central Mississippi. I mean, Louisiana, of course, getting a lot of the headlines this morning, but we cannot forget about our friends in Mississippi that very likely could be dealing with a mess. Not a direct mess, but indirectly from Ida here, and our friends in the Panhandle of Texas and in Alabama as well. Double-digit rainfall potentially over the next couple of days here, over the next 72 hours. So before we say goodbye here, Damien, let's take another look here at Aaron's camera as he drives around Louisiana here. I think he's going into a parking garage, probably wants to get out of the rain to probably figure out what is his next plan here. But big shout out to Aaron. He made great time in getting into Louisiana yesterday, and out ahead of what could be a wild day. I mean, I can't just help but watch that tree blowing in the wind there, right? Here very soon, some much stronger winds are set to impact Aaron in the surrounding area, but it looks like people are heeding those warnings. Fantastic stuff. So let's get ready to bring Erica back in one more time here. Of course, this is meteorologist Erica Lopez, the newest member of the MyRadar weather team. We are so glad that Erica is joining us, and of course, what a weekend for her to join us here. An incredibly busy weekend in terms of meteorological history. But Erica, what are you seeing right now on the MyRadar app? It seems like that eye is just sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I mean, the eye definitely well established there, and it looks like it might be making for a landfall close to Grand Isle, just watching it from the radar. So something we'll definitely keep watching the next coming even hours to say. But I do want to mention too that I did see a report just there at Shell Beach, Louisiana. They were saying up to 6 feet of storm surge being reported there. So something significant that we're going to have to keep watching. Everything around seems to be about between 3 to 5 feet of storm surge, but something interesting to note there. And just a quick update too on our power outages. So Plaquemines Parish right now has gone up to about 7,400 customers without power. So they're losing power pretty quickly in this area as we are getting closer to landfall. And then taking a look at Orleans Parish outages right now, 8,400 customers without power. And there in Lafourche Parish, we're seeing about 4,800 customers without power. So these numbers keep going up as these winds starting to come in, as well as all the rain. And you did mention the flooding potential too. I do want to mention as well, we can't forget about our inland cities, even close in the next coming days. They will see all that flooding potential as well. And even these winds, tropical storm force winds possible, just something to keep in mind, especially if you are in these inland areas as Hurricane Ida inches closer to landfall, and as it moves inland, you will see some cities around it as well with flooding potential.
Right. It's not just necessarily,
Yes.
I mean, of course, those are those big eye-popping numbers, right? 150 mile per hour winds, Category 4, those really catch your attention. But that's just right around the eye, right? I mean, as you start to extend out from it, the winds decrease, but you're talking just sheets of rain are well on their way for people as far north as Baton Rouge and even into central Mississippi.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind too that not only just the rain from the storm, but it's been a pretty saturated year overall in terms of rainfall for pretty much all of the southeast. So any rain could flood easily, or any extra rain that they get may flood any of these roadways pretty easily in and around these areas as well.
Yeah, of course, it's. I'd be remiss to forget, Erica, if I wouldn't talk about those flash floods that just occurred in Waverly, Tennessee. Was that last week? I mean, this month has just been wild. But as you touched on, an already incredibly saturated south and southeastern United States, add on 2 feet of rain on top of that, and it could make for some messier conditions here over the next couple of weeks. But of course, if you guys have any questions for us in the chat, now would be the time to get them in here before we wrap things up. Erica, I've got a question from Morgan. What are you seeing for northeastern Alabama right now, and for what is to come as Ida makes landfall?
So northeastern Alabama right now, we're not seeing much, at least in terms of impacts with Hurricane Ida, but in the next coming days, they will see some pretty significant flooding as this tracks. It's in the track. Just northeast Alabama is part of that track. So from Jasper to Decatur to Florence, Alabama, these are the cities that may see that potential for some rainfall. And of course, like we mentioned earlier, with the already saturated grounds, this will cause flooding pretty quickly in those areas. So something to keep in mind, as well as some possibility of some tropical storm force winds in these areas.
Right. And as we just talked to Matthew, our meteorologist Matt Cappucci before, the same day, right? Katrina 16 years ago today, and this storm, same geographical area, 2 very different storms, but 2 that will likely go down in the history books that we will likely be studying for years to come here. So we've got, I'm just looking at the rest of the comments here, Erica, and I think that that's probably just going to about do it. We got so many, so much love for you coming in, Erica. We'd love to see it. Here, one more thing we'll round out. We didn't talk about this a lot. What are you thinking in terms of the tornado potential out ahead of this for folks that live in Louisiana?
You read my mind. I was actually thinking about the tornado potential. That's something else you cannot forget. There's so many factors with the landfalling hurricane that you have to keep in mind, that tornado potential. So right now, just in these areas, they have about a 5% of tornadoes. You can't rule it out. But we may get quick spin-ups, and that may cause some pretty significant damage in these areas, not only on top of the extreme wind warning, which they're saying to treat like a tornado warning, but as well as the actual tornado warnings that we may see with a couple spin-ups just on the outer bands of Ida.
What a weekend for you to get started with us, Erica, but we are so glad that you did, and more to come here. More to come out of Mother Nature here. But thank you so much, meteorologist Erica Lopez, the newest member of the MyRadar team. Erica, thank you so much for a check on Ida there. So I think, Damien, that's probably going to about do it for this stream. Let me pull up the enhanced IR imagery just one more time here. I mean, it's very likely here that we could be talking about a landfall here within the next maybe hour or two. I mean, this could be happening very, very quickly, but it is happening very, very quickly. So you will likely be seeing us again here very soon as Ida gets set to make landfall. And of course, Storm Chaser Aaron Jayjack is on the ground. Damien, I'm unsure if we still have his camera up. You can let me know if we have it. There he is. Just one final look at Aaron. So he's just kind of standing by. I think he's just trying to figure out what is next to come here out of Ida. So he's trying to figure out where next to go. And then, yeah, it's set to be a very active day here for us here on the MyRadar team. So you can be sure to follow us across all of our social media handles. You can see them up above my head there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Oh, now they're down below. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're on Twitch as well. You can follow us across our new suite of Spanish language social media accounts. Again, that is where you can find let alone your coverage in English, but your coverage in Spanish as well. We are so excited to get that started. And again, from all of us here on the team, we hope that you stay dry, stay safe. Be sure that you have a way, of course, to receive those warnings and alerts from the National Weather Service. At least 2 ways to do so. Very important stuff. But that's going to do it from here in the studio. We will be back very shortly for another update as Hurricane Ida, right now a Category 4 hurricane, gets set to make landfall in Louisiana. From Orlando, Florida, for MyRadar Storm Chaser Aaron Jayjack and meteorologists Erica Lopez and Matt Cappucci, I have been meteorologist Mike Linden. We'll be seeing you back here soon. Stay safe.